Hey, what up guys, it's Jace here, and today I'm going to be bringing you guys a shot syncing tutorial in After Effects. And I know a lot of you guys already know how to sync shots, and you may know how to sync shots in After Effects, but most people know how to sync shots in Sony Vegas, and nowadays more and more people are moving on to simple, only After Effects editing. It's a lot better and it's a lot less complicated because you don't have to switch programs. So I'm going to be showing you guys how to do it only in After Effects, and it's probably just as easy as doing it in Sony Vegas. So let's get started. So right now we have a quad feed clip that I have provided. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we've got a song, and I'm going to make sure the volume is quite low so I don't blow your guys' ears out. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that the audio on our clip is not on, so we just click on the little microphone thing over there, turns off the audio. And the first thing we need to do is preview the song and make sure that we know where the kick and bass is. And for this song, I already know that the best thing to sync to is the snare. So I'm going to be listening for the snare, and then I'm going to be making markers to where I think the actual snare is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to preview the audio, and then I'm going to make markers as I go along. Now, how to make markers on a Mac is you'd hold Control and 8. You press Control and 8. Now on a PC, I'm not exactly sure what the key is called, but on a Mac, Control is the third button to the left of the space bar, so it may be the same for you. You can also, if I just look up marker, add marker, you can go to layer, add marker, and that's how you can do it manually, but you can't do it as you're going along while listening to the audio. So you can see the little shortcut key thing right here, and it should tell you on the PC. I'm not sure what it is. You can figure it out. So also, to the shortcut for listening to audio, you're going to hold the same button, Control, and the period, as in like the end of a sentence. So you'd hold Control and period, and that'll preview the audio. Alright, so now I'm going to make markers as I hear the snare and see how it goes. Ready? Alright, so yeah, so that should get a pretty accurate if you're good with listening to the beat. Also, I have the waveforms up. You might be able to tell, like here you can tell that's where the snare is, just because the audio kind of jumps up, and then here, same here, there's a little jump. But most of the time I can't even tell. It's even if I zoom in, like it's pretty hard to tell. Here's really obvious. Here it's not so obvious. It might be here, I'm not sure. I might as well put it there. Here I just can't even tell. It might be that. And then here, see, I can't even tell. I might play it again. Yeah, so it's in the middle of there. So I'm going to zoom out. So that's where the snare is. So now I just need to align the video in such a way that the shot corresponds to the beat. So what we're going to do is I have time remapping on already, but how you're going to do time remapping, you're going to go to layer, time, and enable time remapping. I already have it on, so I don't need to click it. And the shortcut for that, because I love to use shortcuts, it makes editing way faster. So the shortcut for that is Command, Option, and then the letter T, and it looks like that. I'm not sure what Command or Option are on a PC, so you're going to have to look that up. For the Mac, it's the first and second button to the left of the spacebar, and then T. So, yeah. So you got your time remapping, and now we need to make keyframes to where the specific points we want to slow down and speed up are. So we're going to put keyframes on each shot. So there, 1, Next shot, about there, 2. Next shot, about there, 3. And last shot, 4. Okay, so another thing that editors do is that they like to speed up and slow down the scope in and scope out. So what you need to do that is you need to make keyframes for time remapping right before he scopes in on each shot and right after he scopes out, in this case when he pulls back the bolt. And you're going to get little clusters of 3 keyframes, and yeah, so for each shot you're going to have 3 keyframes kind of close together. If the scope out and scope in for certain shots are really close together, you might get a little bit confused, but if you just scroll through the video you can figure it out. Scope in, and last one. Okay, so we also have to keep in mind the very end of the clip. I've cut the clip. The normal clip ends all the way here, and there's a little keyframe that that represents the end of the clip, and we need to keep in mind where that is. It's important to know. Now, what all these keyframes mean and time remapping, what it means is, okay, here's a frame. There's a keyframe on the specific frame. Alright, you can't move this frame around without changing the video. It's not like any other keyframe. If I were to make a opacity keyframe, right, keyframe it and move it around, it's not going to do anything. But in this case of time remapping, it does make a difference. So you can't move these around unless you're actually trying to sync shots. So you can't be like, whoops, I missed, and then just move it. You have to actually, you can't just say like, oh, oops, I accidentally meant to keyframe over here, and I put it here. You can't just move it. So now that we have our clusters of 3 keyframes, we're going to select all of them and pick the middle one, right, because there's one before and one after each shot. So the middle one in each cluster of 3, and align it to each marker. And there's a little trick to doing that, which is when you're dragging it along, you can hold down shift and it'll snap to whatever there is there. So in this case there's a marker, it'll snap to the marker. Now we skip that cluster of 3 keyframes and move on. Now we take the middle of this new cluster and shift snap it to the next marker. Now we move on, skip that last 3, take the middle, snap it, move on to the very last bit of 3, and we have to make sure that we're highlighting the last keyframe, so we make sure the distance between this keyframe and that keyframe stays the same, so that the speed between those stays at 100% and it doesn't get changed. So now that we have them all aligned, we are going to zoom in to get more detail on where exactly these keyframes are, and we're gonna move around the values for the scope in and scope out keyframes. So here's the shot. We're not gonna mess with any of the keyframes aligned with the markers. So let's say we want the scope in to speed up, so we just take this keyframe where the scope in is, that's okay, and we're gonna move in towards the scope, so it's going to start here now and scope in really fast, and then scope out. Say we want to speed that down, move that out, so now it takes more time physically on the video, it takes more time. So same thing, here's the scope in, move it in, and scope out, move it out, scope in, move it in, and just keep doing this till we get to the end of our clip. Alright, so we're done. Except there's one more thing we need to do, which is we need to import our M40 shot, and just find that on your hard drive. I clicked Command I, and I think on a PC Control I is the shortcut to import, and you can also just go to File import file, but I use shortcuts. So I have our M40 shot. We're going to drag that. See the little playhead above? So we're going to hold shift, and that will snap it to where the keyframe is. Move this up above the song. And for some reason on my M40 audio, it's not quite aligned, so the start of the layer is not actually where the start of the sound is. So I have to change that. I have to just take the layer and cut it a little bit. And then realign it. So now we're just going to duplicate that layer and then move it over to the next keyframe. And duplicate it again, move it over to the next shot, move it, duplicate it again, and move it to the last shot. So now, if we RAM preview this, press N to shorten your sequence, your work area. If we RAM preview this, you can hear how it sounds. Alright, I actually thought the scope outs took a little bit too much time, so I'm just going to move them in, and then we can RAM preview that again. Alright, so we have it perfectly synced, and you can do that with any clip, and it doesn't really matter what the circumstances are. You just need to know where the beats are, and you just make your markers, and you can sync the shots. It's pretty simple once you get used to it. It may be a little bit complicated the first time. You might get a little confused. Just come back to the tutorial. If you guys have any questions for me, just ask in the comments. I don't really care. I'll answer any question. So I hope you guys found this tutorial useful, and I'm going to go do something else. So I hope you guys found this to be a good tutorial. I'll see you guys later. Bye.